welcome to Coffeezilla, a little demonetization interview. This is sort of the first, and it's hopefully a series of talks with creators about how demonetization has affected them. And today I have Griffin Johnsen, right? Okay, sorry, I want to make sure you get that right. The Armchair historian, you guys all know him, and he recently had a big video about being demonetized and how much his channel was being hurt.
Basically, if you haven't heard, we just keep getting demonetized over and over again, and this means that ads can't run on the videos and that they're not going to be promoted to anybody. So they're not going to be recommended, and the views are going to go really far down, and I can't just keep making videos like this if that's just going to keep happening. So I want to stop and then resolve the issue first. If this doesn't work, all the stuff that I've worked for multiple years on YouTube will all fall apart.
I want to hear from your words. Give me the history of demonetization for history channels for a second.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I guess that the history of demonetization within education and history channels, is that what you're asking? Because I don't know, I can't really speak on all of demonetization across YouTube, but
No, specifically history channels.
Yeah, history channels. Yeah, so when I started out about 3 years ago, just uploading now and then quite casually. I don't even think the strict requirements for monetization were around back then. So if I'm not mistaken, I was able to just monetize right off the bat. And so were a lot of other educational channels. And no one was really affected by demonetization that much. What I was saying a while ago was that if you covered like the Holocaust and you were you bring out lots of controversy and inviting that into the comment section and just overall creating a very controversial video, and you know it's controversial, yeah, you'd run the risk of demonetization. That would happen. And other history creators would, we could kind of accept that. But it specifically affected military history channels and military history channels who covered World War II in particular. And within World War II, covering genocide and, again, the Holocaust and anything that we can acknowledge is controversial. So it wasn't that much of a problem. However, over a couple of years, they've kind of been, I think the algorithm, the way they basically will find content and flag it if it's going to be demonetized or not, has been learning. YouTube says this themselves. And they've been a lot more liberal with what kind of videos are being demonetized. Before, again, like all the history YouTubers could kind of acknowledge, okay, yeah, I'll have one video in my catalog that's going to get demonetized because you're bound to cover something controversial when you talk about history. But recently, within the last few months, you've had creators all around the same time. And I think YouTube is this, what's kind of funny about it is YouTube had a glitch where subscribers would see, or YouTube channels would see their channels with 0 subscribers. They are all getting demonetized at once. They tried to remove our verification badges, then they brought them back. All of these changes were kind of happening around the same time. So you can tell that YouTube was going through some big changes recently within the last couple months.
Right.
And that's when the Great War channel, all of a sudden 250 videos get demonetized. Not even controversial ones, just
Whoa, stop for 1 second.
Sure.
Let that sink in. 250 videos at one time got demonetized. I can't fathom that. That's way more than my entire catalog.
Oh, this I know. Exactly. I've only released like 60 or 70 videos. Yeah. So that is like, and what I want to make very, very clear, I've been trying to tell people, I don't even like to call it demonetization. It's video suppression. And I know you can speak on this about your, I think you had a video about e-cigarettes and vaping. And what will happen, and you can look at the graphs. Some people might deny this, but we as the creators, we have the analytics. YouTube provides the analytics to show this. A video can be monetized and it can be up. Despite what they say unlist the video, a bot will check it, and then you can make it public. Okay, you do that. It doesn't get flagged. You make it public, and then halfway through its release, it can get demonetized, and you can see the views drop dramatically. And so I don't like to call it video demonetization because you not only lose most of the ads running on it, but you lose recommendation because if YouTube's not making money on the ads that are being run, there's no point in running it. Why not run the family-friendly content that is getting ads? And so your views are going to get down. It's not going to be recommended. Some of your subscribers might not even hear that you released the video, and you're not even making money on it. So when that happens to 250 videos, especially the Great War Channel, if you guys aren't familiar, covered World War I in real time. So you're meant to watch from beginning to end. Well, if you can't find videos, it's not like they're standalone and it's like, okay, if I miss one, it's whatever. If you miss 250 videos, you're going to have no idea what's going on. And again, to say that 250 videos are all controversial, like there were no, if you look at World War I compared to World War II, you at least the everyday person can point out more atrocities and more controversy in World War II. We're still having debates about World War II today. There aren't many World War I political movements going on today. You know, there's like people want to talk about Nazism and communism, Stalinism specifically from World War II. That's still stuff that affects us today. In World War I, a lot of these political movements aren't really around anymore. So you can, I think most people can objectively say that World War I had less controversy than World War II. At least that's the way it's covered. There's still things that went on in the First World War that are controversial, and lots of people being killed and lots of groups being suppressed. Of course, that's going on. But relative to World War II, World War I is going to have less controversy. So the fact that 250 videos got wiped out, you can only imagine what people covering World War II or even modern events that need to be talked about are going through. And it doesn't just affect the history community. It affects anyone trying to talk about education, or really more than just education. Nerdcity released a video recently talking about how the LGBTQ community, if they even include the word gay or lesbian or anything relating to their identities, if they even include that in the title, their video gets demonetized. So really, there's such a large problem here from even the title of your video. Just it can be completely suppressed, even if you're not talking about controversy. If you want to educate or just talk about something personal to you, YouTube might not allow it.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. First of all, that's actually how I found Griffin. Was we both got featured in Nerd City's video. That guy is like the hero of YouTube right now, by the way, because he's bringing light in a popular manner to the public, to let people know what's actually going on, what creators kind of know, but he's really shedding some light because, I mean, as you said, nearly every community is getting affected by this in some way. And I think it is important that we highlight how it affects views, because I think the views are actually way more important than Google's, bad AdSense. I mean, AdSense really doesn't do much for most creators. Yeah. What most creators get supported by is sponsorships. And so really what happens when your video gets suppressed is not the loss of AdSense, it's the loss of sponsors, because you have to, for the people at home, how sponsors work is you say, this is how many views my videos get. So you guarantee some number of views, or you guesstimate some number of views. And if you don't hit those numbers, then they're less likely to work with you in the future. So having a video demonetized isn't just about AdSense. It's really about, if you get that M rating, which we're going to get into in a second, you're going to get suppressed. And when you get suppressed, you can't have sponsors. When you can't have sponsors, you can't grow or, expand your channel or really make a living. So it really gets down to that, because I think when the first wave of demonetization hit, it was less about the suppression. Google's ramped up the way they're suppressing videos because they've been under so much fire from all these different, we could go over a million different cases, but like the mainstream media has been hitting Google hard about like allowing hate speech, all these things. And fair enough, get those things in check. But because of that, they've been trying to crack down on borderline content. But it seems like there's no consensus. There's no transparency on what that means. I mean, I hung on to something you said, which is like, we knew in the history community sort of what would get us demonetized. What's so frustrating now is it feels like no one knows what will get you demonetized.
You have no idea.
Like you could make some video and you think, oh, this is about as, PG as it gets. I saw, what's that guy's name? Uber Danger. He made a video where he was talking about how he's like been crippled by demonetization. He goes, I've been working to get my videos clean and still they're getting demonetized. I have no idea why. Like, I think that's a huge component of it, is just the seeming arbitrariness of their rules.
Yeah, there's just no transparency. And for those of you who aren't running YouTube channels, it doesn't tell you why your video gets demonetized. It doesn't even hint. It just says, nope, reviewed. That's it. That's all the information you get. So that makes it even more frustrating. I think that if creators had some level of transparency, if at least they were honest and said, yeah, we just don't like having war in the title, sorry, at least we could try to respond in some kind of way. But yeah, there's just no transparency, really.
Well, and look, when you get on TV, you have a relationship with standards and practices, and you can call up and you can say, hey, this is what my video is going to look like. And they tell you, hey, at 41 minutes, you have this in here. They're not going to like that. You're going to have some problems here. Take that out, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. YouTubers need that. If this is going to continue to be a thing, if it's not just about AdSense, if it's about views themselves, YouTube needs a way to basically make creators learn, because just spinning your wheels forever is not an option.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no lie, I always think it's a joke when creators are like, I'm thinking about quitting YouTube. I've seen creators like not joking anymore. They're not like doing it for views. They're like, seriously, like, I'm thinking about getting out of YouTube. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, I went through that as well. I think I uploaded a live stream, which was when it all happened, and I was quite like distressed. It was like 40 minutes of ranting, and of course that's what Nerd City pulled out of, is my like really unfiltered 40 minutes. I then released like a 5-minute condensed version. That was when I calmed down a bit. But no, for a time I was seriously considering quitting with like. I mean, if you can't do anything about your videos being demonetized and your sponsors won't work with you, again, like I know you already addressed this, but it's really worth saying again. People say, okay, if YouTube ads won't appear in your videos, just get sponsors. Why don't you just get sponsors? Look, sponsors do not want to work with you if you're not getting views. Right. It's the same thing on television. If you're not getting views on if the show is not being viewed, the channel's not going to make money on it, and they're going to cancel your show. So totally. You need to have views for. I mean, the deals I work with are called CPM based deals, and in that way, you get paid for every 1,000 people who watch your video, and so it is directly linked to the views that you're getting on your videos. And so if you get suppressed, if you get demonetized, that's not really an option. So yeah, it just makes it all the more frustrating. And if that's happening and you're not making a profit, and if you're an educational channel, there's an animation team and a research team and a writing team, and thousands of dollars go into the production of each video, that can be a big problem if even one video gets demonetized. That can be like an entire month's worth of income if you're one of the creators who are releasing once a month and not once a day. So yeah, that could be, at that point you might as well look for something different, because if you don't even know what the rules are and you can't even play by the rules and you're being punished, you can't even play the game. So
I want to tell you something that I'm not sure if you know, because like Nerd City didn't talk. I mean, I think the only video really about the mature rating is really Nerd City's video. So for people, demonetization is one thing. There's a second thing called the content rating system, which is like your video is rated and it's invisible, which is stupid. G, PG, teen, or M. And if you're rated M, basically that's when your video gets suppressed. So normally when you see a demonetized video, it's likely that video will be M. The reason Susan Wojcicki can say our content rating system and our demonetization systems are separate is because in a very technical sense, they are, but it just so happens that the same rules that get you demonetized are also going to get you rated M. So one thing that I don't know if you know, Griffin, is that rated M has a certain connotation from how we think of it in our pop culture that I think isn't working with YouTube, because in pop culture, when you say M, you say, we don't want people under 18 watching this video.
Right.
Here's what's weird about YouTube, and this is what drives me insane. YouTube doesn't mean that when they say rated M. They mean like we're not going to recommend it, but they don't mean we're only going to show it to your over 18 audience. Because if that was the case, then being rated M would not affect a channel like mine, and probably not yours. I don't know about your demographics, but
even people who are young lie about their age. Of course, everyone writes that they're at least 18. No one like will admit that they're 8 years old. And then if an 8-year-old is on a Google account, they're probably using their mother. So no, you can't really tell who's not 18. Most people are going to show up as 18 or older.
Yeah. Like my channel's like I have 5% of my demographic is under 18. The rest are in like the 18 to 25, and then there's like some older folks. But it's like, if it was a traditional rating M, it's like I would expect to see maybe a 5% drop in my views because those people wouldn't be shown like my recommended video. But that's not what you end up seeing. You see a disproportionate amount of recommendations lost. Because you know about like how you can see YouTube's funnel for who they're showing your video to. I don't know if you've noticed this, but basically your recommendations on the watch page go way down. Mm-hmm. You should check it out anyway.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you probably already know it. But that's what's driving me crazy at this point because I'm just thinking to myself like I'm like, why, if you're gonna rate videos M, okay, but let the people who are mature enough to watch my videos watch my videos. Because it's not really an M rating. Like you said, it's more like, let's kill the video. Except for the people who happen to be typing in coffee break to YouTube and happen to see my video, or the people who are like super dedicated fans who are clicking on their subscription box. For the people who are who are used to just clicking on my videos from the home page or the watch page, they're just not seeing it. And they're not seeing your videos. They're not seeing, even if they're 18.
Yeah. There's just no way. And and also, one of the frustrating things too, if you already know this, most creators don't even know this is a thing. So not only is there a system in place that is broken, but the system, nobody even knows about a broken system, which it just makes it doubly worse. So no, that's definitely one thing I like to bring up too is that I was taught about the Holocaust in like 6th grade. It's like I don't know why you need to be 18 to learn about history, and I'm not even covering. I haven't even talked about the Holocaust on my video. I keep bringing that up because that is what gets your videos. That is like you'll get the worst rating if you even mention it.
Even though YouTube explicitly denies that's the case, right?
Yeah, or just won't even tell you. You can't. Another thing that's frustrating too is that I tried to email people. I tried to get in contact with YouTube, and they do not give you any. For those of you who think that you like work with some people work with managers, especially if you're at a really large scale. But those of you, even at the 500,000 subscriber range, some might still have managers. Most probably don't. And yeah, you have no one to go to. You have nobody to ask questions to. And if you try to email YouTube, they're going to send you a template of please read our terms and conditions and see why your video is being demonetized. And you just click on it, and it's a wall of text that doesn't help you at all with just super vague terminology. So yeah.
That's like the funniest thing to me is when YouTube sends super basic information and it's like, this doesn't help me at all. There's a political channel who is like, my channel's basically been killed because you guys are killing my recommendations. And Team YouTube hops in the chat. They're like, have you checked out our creator tips for how to increase your reach? It's like,
it's so condescending. It's like, if you've been on here for 3 years, you're full time and you've got 500,000 subscribers or 1 million subscribers, I'm sure you know how to upload a video and what the description is and what monetization is. Like, I'm sure you know all of that. And they have the audacity to condescend you unless you're at 10 million subscribers, super family friendly. They really, it's kind of like a cliche to say that they don't care about smaller creators. I won't necessarily say that. I'm sure the people working there think they care. They think they care about smaller creators, but the systems that are in place do not cater to the support of those smaller creators. I think that would be a more accurate way to say. No,
I think you're totally right. And I don't know if this is the case in the history community, but one thing that I've noticed is that YouTube, the people they do clearly favor are the established mainstream voices. So one thing I noticed was I was like looking up vaping videos because it's like, man, how many people are talking about vaping? Mm-hmm. And like actually, because when you talk about the teen vaping epidemic, that's what got me killed, right? Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't promoting vaping, but I was talking about the teen vaping epidemic. How dare you talk about that, whatever. I went and I looked up a few news sources and I'm seeing all these ads run on them because they're mainstream. Right. And so they get greenlit. I don't know if there is like an equivalent of like a history mainstream outlet.
Well, there are. History is not as. I think the biggest science channels are much bigger than the biggest history channels. But the biggest history channels, and this isn't calling these people out in any way because it's not their fault that they're greenlit here. But I think a channel called Simple History, they've got a couple million, and Oversimplified have a couple million. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Oversimplified has a 2-part series on Hitler, on just Hitler's life. and it's a little fun character of Hitler. So like, I think, and he gets monetized. All of his videos get monetized. Simple History can talk about. I think they talked about the Italian invasion of Ethiopia, and that might just sound like some random conflict. Who cares that happened? But in the Second World War, if anyone has researched this, you'll know that the Italians won almost solely because they're dropping gas canisters and pretty much breaking every rule in the Geneva Convention and are like doing like mass killings of any village that they come across. So it's a pretty controversial invasion, but they will get monetized pretty easily. Again, that's not their fault, but I think I don't know what the system does. I mean, for a little while, when my channel was smaller, I had a video called Life in Nazi Germany with a giant swastika on Hitler. And it was an objective video, but it was that seems pretty controversial. And it wasn't even flagged for, I didn't even have to do a manual review, but that was a couple years ago. And so I think the rules were different before. And I think there must be some kind of way that the algorithm kind of checks off certain channels. I don't know how, again, nothing's transparent. So this is all speculation. But yeah, again, another weird thing about it is just that some channels can cover the same topic, like you said, especially the mainstream and established ones can cover the same topic, and they'll be. I mean, you did a video on how the trending page works, and
Yep.
anyone who's spent a long time on YouTube knows that if you go to the trending page, the first thing you'll see are the late night hosts and Will Smith, and it's like those aren't YouTubers. What is Will Smith doing up here? And like he makes good content, whatever. I guess if you want to watch him, you want to watch him. But it's not like he's a YouTuber. I think everyone can acknowledge that Will Smith is first is an actor, and likewise, all of the late night hosts are not YouTubers and then late night hosts. So the fact that the YouTubers themselves, the people who do this as their like primary source. For like revenue and for living, they're not appearing on the trending page. They're not appearing on recommended as much. A lot of these more well-established channels and companies, more specifically, are either getting greenlit or like not only are they getting greenlit, but they're getting extra privileges and being promoted more so than anyone else. It's like insult over injury. It's like not only are you not able to just get the normal recommendations, but these guys who you're, I guess, competing with in a way are not only able to cover whatever they want, but they also get bonus points. They also get to be promoted way more than everyone else does. And you don't know why. You don't know where to look for why that happens. You can only speculate. So again, it's all, you don't know what's going on, and everything is super frustrating. That's like the theme. Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. And the thing is, and this is something I've heard sort of around, is that where YouTube's reviewers are located are basically the low-income countries, because they basically they made this promise to have like 10,000 manual reviewers and scale up massively, and you just can't hire that kind of workforce in the U.S. It's too costly. So where do you go? You go to a place like India or something like that, where there isn't on average as good of an understanding of the English language. And so if your video gets, you try to manually review a video and you're like a low priority channel, I'm guessing they're not going to be sending you to their, California review team.
Right.
They're going to be sending you to their, wherever review team, and where they don't understand English as much, and they see some cartoon characters holding guns, and they don't want to be responsible for that being on the site. So they're like, well, I guess I'll just, demonetize him. Whereas if you sent it to a review team that sort of understood like the US side of things, that context, and understood exactly what you were saying, maybe they would greenlight your video. The other thing is, I imagine that the time frame to make a decision on these videos is not watch the whole video and then decide.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like watch 20 seconds. Watch 20 seconds, scrub through the rest, go through the transcript, and make a decision within like a minute or 2 minutes or 3. And that is just not adequate. I think what we're finding is that there was this idea that machine learning could scale fast enough to solve these problems. And machine learning, like, we just give it enough training sets. Right. And we just give it enough data, and it's going to get like really, really good. And sure, it's gotten better, but not, almost not though.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
it's gotten better in some areas, and then it'll go 10 steps forward and then 20 steps back all of a sudden, and then it's very like it's very volatile. Like I noticed I was doing really well, and again, life in Nazi Germany. Okay, I didn't even really introduce controversy, and I covered it objectively. Okay, and I was monetized, and I didn't even have to contend with the bot. Okay, cool. And then all of a sudden everything gets flagged, and then nothing gets I even talked to another YouTube channel, Cynical Historian, and he just tells me that they reverse their decisions all the time. So it could be monetized and then demonetized, and then a video a year ago will get remonetized again. It's like it is all over the place. You can't again, it's like it's not just that there's a problem here, it's that nobody knows what the hell's going on. Like I don't know if my whole channel is going to get demonetized tomorrow. It could happen. And you might say, oh, you're over exaggerating a bit. Well, look at the Great War channel again, 250 videos demonetized. I don't even have that many videos on my channel. So, and I cover military history almost exclusively. So I could be the next one on their list, and the Great War channel is bigger than mine. So maybe they're going to look at mine next and take down I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know any of this information. It's we just have to try to figure something out.
Well, here's what's crazy. Here's what I've realized has kind of happened, which is really unfortunate. So whenever you have an AI classifier, you have two different kinds of false things going on. Either the thing is monetizable and it incorrectly demonetizes it, or it's demonetizable and it incorrectly monetizes it. Those are the two mistakes an AI can make, right?
Yeah.
Or it can just correctly identify. So the problem is that I've noticed is, I don't know if you noticed when there was the whole Vox apocalypse, Susan Wojcicki did an interview on Recode with Kara Swisher. Or was it Kara Swisher? Anyway, she did an interview where basically the person said, look, you guys have garbage on your site. You're promoting garbage. And Susan was like, oh, but we're getting so much better. And he goes, well, if you're even letting 0.1% through, you're failing. You're failing the community. He goes like, if I had only 1% of my backyard filled with sludge, I would just clear out the whole yard. You know what I mean? Basically, his point was like, you guys need to completely solve the problem of falsely monetized. It should have been demonetized. Okay. Anytime you tell an AI, like, never make a mistake on should have been demonetized, but you monetized it, you're going to automatically just exponentially increase the number of should have been monetized but got demonetized, because you're telling it like be so cautious. Don't let anyone through, because if you let anyone through, it's a giant failure. And so what I think we've seen a lot of is YouTube way overreact to all the flack they've been getting from some of these like mainstream outlets like Vox and these guys, where they're saying, look, if we find one Nazi video with 600 views, we're going to blow you up. we're going to go to your advertisers. We're going to completely kill you guys. And so YouTube's like, well, we don't want that to happen. So let's just ratchet it the other way. You know, everyone else be damned. And then they just don't have the manpower to solve problems. I mean, like at this point as a creator, you just have to make it like the only solution is nobody has managers. They don't have enough managers. So as you said, so it's like, what do? The answer is to complain on Twitter. It's so pathetic. I mean, that's literally what you said, right? Like you're like, hey, I'm going to go complain on Twitter. Like come retweet me because we need to basically get this solved on my channel, right?
Yeah. Well, still, we got no response. I mean, I was very grateful because larger YouTube channels reached out who were giving me a bunch of tips, and that actually helped me out. And it was about how you titled the videos and the words you put in them. And then the Nerd City video came out and pretty much confirmed everything that they were telling me.
That's interesting
as well. But yeah, YouTube. I never got in touch with YouTube through the entire issue I had with my channel, and I don't think any of my colleagues have ever gotten in touch with YouTube either. So yeah, there's basically nothing you can do. I don't know. It's just there's just no communication on really any. You can't even go to Twitter. I mean, again, if you've got a massive platform, if you're one of the larger creators, you can try to. But even then, you notice that even like maybe it's like H3 or whoever it is can say something, and Twitter's response or YouTube's response on Twitter will be like, "Thank you, we'll look into this shortly," and nothing will happen. It's just you're not gonna be like, "Oh shit, dude, sorry, bro, I screwed up on that one. Let me take care of that." You're not gonna get like a person who's going to be doing that. So there's just there's very little that you can do about it. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I feel depressed right now from our conversation.
Right.
Hold on one second. take a moment. Where do we go from here? Is there a viable solution coming, or is it all in YouTube's court? What can creators do? Let's say you're a history channel right now, and you're thinking about starting one. That's even better, because I think that's the real cost of this, is creators who don't have a following, who are trying to build a following. Look, they're watching what's going on, how volatile the system is. What would you say to someone like that?
So I don't want to be cynical, and I feel really bad saying this. I got an email from someone who wrote this like very long email out and was saying like, hey, I really want to start a history channel and I'm very excited about it and I just want some advice from you. And normally I respond to those, and like I just deleted the email because I couldn't write to him like, hey, don't do it. So I don't want to be too cynical, but I don't know if I would even recommend starting a history channel at this point. I mean, really, this just goes to like anything. If you're trying to take a risk in any kind of entertainment through YouTube or through becoming a SoundCloud rapper or whatever you want to do, or writing a book, you don't want to do it. You don't want to jump into it full time. You want to do it as a hobby, see if it could go anywhere, and take it very, very cautiously. That's what I did before making a decision to stop finishing my education and completely pursue the YouTube channel. I guess my advice would be to be extra cautious, and I don't know. Here's something I think there is a way to get around it. If you can crowdfund yourself, that's really the only guarantee. You have to. What I've realized after doing this and running it as a business for a couple of years now is middlemen will. If you have middlemen to start you off, that's good. Maybe you're not big enough to like do merchandise in-house or negotiate with a large merchandise company. So use Teesprings or like just a middleman to get you started. When you get larger and when you're considering doing things full time, do not rely on middle. The rule should be you want to look at like, okay, is my YouTube channel? I'll start my history YouTube channel. Is it doing well? Okay, maybe. What if I do it full time? Before you might say, yeah, I'll try it full time and we'll see if it works. YouTube isn't that volatile. Well, now that it's gotten even worse, I would say, you have to add another rule to this and say, how many middlemen am I relying on? And yes, YouTube is a middleman. So if you can directly connect with an audience who is completely crowdfunding you and you can survive entirely off of the income that the people who are watching you are providing, like that is when you know that things can be okay. So if you want to start a history channel, don't go into it. I mean, this is the same advice I would give years ago. Don't go into starting any kind of YouTube channel or any kind of thing that like a podcast or any form of entertainment without like if you go into it thinking you're going to make money on it, then that's a wrong way to think about it.
For
the
sure.
People who end up making money on it are the people who go into it for the passion of it, and then maybe because they see how passionate you are and that the content is good, maybe you can make money off of it. But even then, if you start making money off of it, again, you have to ask yourself that next question. How many middlemen can I cut, and how reliable is the middleman of YouTube into reaching this audience? What I've done is I've started a website subscription service, kind of like a Netflix for history that I'm still working on now. But we've got like over 1,000 people just in the month that we've launched moved over to that, supporting us. And by 2020, I want that to be my primary source of income. Not that I'm going to stop doing YouTube, but I need a guarantee that if everything falls apart, I'm directly connected to my audience. So I guess the bottom line I would say is do what you want, start what you want, and make it into a passion project. It's the same advice I would give before. Don't go into it thinking you're going to make money. But the new rule is even if you are making money, even if you are making a lot of money, make sure that you have some kind of base of crowdfunding from your audience that is reliable, so that if everything falls apart, you still have people that can help you. Because I didn't do that. I didn't even have a Patreon for a while. I still don't have a Patreon. I just have my website.
I think that's interesting that you chose to build a website rather than going to Patreon,
well,
which
that's
reflects. Exactly what I was going to say, which reflects totally your mentality about middlemen are unreliable, capricious, and ultimately you have no guarantees. They give you zero guarantees.
Right. Well, Patreon even removed, and again, we don't have to get the politics of anything, but they removed a bunch of conservative YouTube channels, I believe. I don't know if they were YouTubers or just conservatives and pretty like further right conservatives. I don't know the details of the story, but regardless, the fact that they removed anybody, and as far as I know, these people weren't like committing crimes or hurting anybody. They just had like some kind of like outlandish political ideas. I honestly, I don't even know who exactly off the top of my head was affected by this, but the very fact that they can just get removed and everything is shut down, that's scary. And so I did not want to have Patreon dip their hand into every donation I got every month. Like, I don't want my fans getting Patreon comes in and grabs a percentage of every fan's contribution. And I also don't want them to have the ability to remove my page at any point. Not that I'm going to cover anything controversial.
No. Let me explain for the audience. It's not just conservatives. There was this girl, Naomi Wu, who does like robotics or something like that. She was on Patreon. She got a ton of money from Patreon. She had some kerfuffle with like some journalist or whatever. She got removed because she did something that Patreon didn't like. I mean, ultimately, it's not just about politics. It's just about, if you commit any arbitrary act and Patreon's trying to save face, they're just going to kick you from their platform. And all those people who made that voluntary decision to support you, gone.
Yeah. And the same thing applies to YouTube. YouTube can just demonetize all your videos. They can shut down as many videos as they want. They can do whatever. So I wouldn't even. YouTube has this thing where you can sign up for YouTube memberships. I'm not doing any of that. I get it for like smaller channels who don't have the infrastructure or the reach to be able to. Not everyone can crowdfund themselves. Not everyone can make a full living off Patreon. But I like to think 10 moves ahead, and I would rather 5 years from now have a base of thousands of supporters on a website that I control than having thousands of users who are already signed up through, let's say, Patreon. And by the time I want to move to starting my own website, to try to get everybody to move over is going to require so much effort. So even if I'm going to take a loss for a couple of years, I know that down the road, it's going to be a good decision. You just want to have control over it. Whether you're going into starting a YouTube channel with a partner, whether you're going into YouTube channel and just signing up with tons of middlemen, whatever it is, just make sure that nobody has that kind of leverage of, I control your income. I own more than 50% of your channel. I own, like, you just want to have, that's at least the philosophy that I go by is like, I need full control over what I'm doing. I'm not going to sabotage my channel by like removing it's not like I'm going to say I'm not going to cooperate with anyone. I'm going to do everything myself. That's not the way to go. You should work with as many people as you can. But when it comes to like your income, and if you're able to do it full time, you don't want to have to rely on people who can kick you out at any point. You want to
I think this is sort of sad though, in a way, isn't it? Like, I thought that the whole idea of YouTube originally was like, we are going to provide the infrastructure of video hosting and making money from that video hosting. That was the real innovation for people. The whole innovation of Patreon was like, we're going to get rid of we are going to be the middleman from you and your audience. And as you said, I think it just erodes trust every time somebody gets kind of snapped off the site.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, I don't, try not to make these episodes too long for my watchers, because otherwise I think we could probably talk all day about this. This is like inside baseball that creators love. But for the fans, okay, I just want to wrap this up real quick. So any last thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever? Anything else you wanted to say?
I don't think so. I would just say, look, try not to be too cynical about. I reacted at first by like wanting to take down all my videos and instantly get off of YouTube. That was my gut reaction. But I would just say, don't be too cynical about it, because YouTube has had the adpocalypse before, and they've gone through problems, but most of the time they manage to come back. So you shouldn't go into this thinking everything is doomed to fail. YouTube is going to completely collapse. And I just think, whatever you do, don't be too cynical about it, but also remain cautious and make sure that no one has that kind of leverage over you financially, or like they don't control your audience. You have somewhere established, even starting a Discord for your audience, just getting into, you want to just as like creator kind of like insight, you want to connect with your audience as much as you can and build up a direct relationship with who you're working with. You don't want people, like, even like if you're in sales or something, you're not going to put a bunch of middlemen. You want to know who your customers are, and as much as you can. So the reason that live streams do so well, or that live streamers are able to make it, is that they interact with their audience and they make it fun for them to watch, and they're engaging with them directly. So if you're going to start a YouTube channel, if you already have a YouTube channel and you're afraid of this, just find ways to connect with your audience more, and really make it less about YouTube handling everything, and make it about you really establishing that kind of fan base and people who want to watch your content and support you. And just I think the final note I want to say is just because a bunch of other YouTubers say something or do something doesn't mean you have to do it. If they're all doing YouTube memberships or YouTube or Patreon or whatever it is, just consider all of your options. And if everybody else is jumping ship, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily right. Just look into something for yourself and don't even just listen to this one video and make a final decision. You want to make sure that you're like well informed about a situation before you do something drastic. Kind of like what I did on the first day of just like, I'm going to take down all my videos. You just want to take that time to really consider what's going on and have a little perspective and know that YouTube's gone through ups and downs and that this isn't the end of the world. People like to have the mentality of like, okay, they did one thing and everything's going to fall apart. We're going to be gone in 5 years. Like, it'll be okay. We just have to keep pushing through it. And I think videos like these and conversations that open up and creators sharing insight about how they get around demonetization, I think things like that help. And a lot of larger creators reached out to me about how to help out with demonetization, which has been working so far. So I think having conversations, just doing that kind of research before you jump ship and panic is always a good. I mean, that applies to really anything. Just, but yeah, I guess I'll end it on that.
Hey man, listen to them chords, bass and them drums straight smacking off the wall. I was on the plane and the stewardess said that's foolishness. Over that beat, I can't wait to see what you gon' spit.
Like a jazz player, I improvise wide. Your arms too short to box with God. Yeah, your rhymes ain't like a jazz player, I improvise wide. Your arms